Hello. This morning I'm going to give you a quick walk through and a homestead tour. And this was prompted by Robert from Daybird Aviaries, who said he's just amazed at how much we can pack into such a small space. So just as a reminder, our homestead is 0.8 acres, so that's just over 3/4 of an acre. And in that we produce most, although not all, of our food. So our homestead is in irregular shape. It's wider on the west side than it is on the east side, and it kind of goes into a point. But it just took a minute, just literally took a minute to walk from the front gate to the back fence there, and a minute and a bit, about a minute and a quarter, to go from the west side to the east side. And the reason that took longer is I had to negotiate the piles of wood chips in the orchard and the fencing that separates various different chicken bits next to the piggeries. So the land is split up. We've divided it into various parts. So there's the gravel driveway behind me, which is quite a large area. It's quite a turning yard. At a push we can park about 15 cars in here and have room for them, any one of them, to turn round and exit without someone having to move. And then in the centre of the plot is the barn, the stables, which we call the chicken condo, the outbuilding that we call chicken palace, and the piggeries. As you can see behind me, the house is sort of at the front of the property. But we don't call that the front because we talk about the orchard being at the front, because when we sit in the kitchen at the dining table we're looking out at the orchard, so we call that our front garden. So if you're standing at our front gate, on your right hand side you've got the mini orchard, and then after that all the way down to the back fence is the duck enclosure. So we have that covered run for the ducklings, and then the ducks have a free range of the rest of it. And then next to the duck enclosure is the start of the food forest, which kind of wends its way in a circle at the moment and will eventually work its way right across. So it's got a bit of the food forest, and then the vegetable garden. Then there's a strip of land that Big White is in, and then another strip of land, it's the diesel field that Elvis and his flock were in, but obviously now without Elvis. I've tried to make sure that every single area is as productive as possible, and that pretty much every area has a dual purpose. So the duck enclosure also has mature fruit trees in it. We're growing a fruit and nut hedge along the boundary, hopefully to help reduce some of the noise that comes from the road, but also to supply food to wild birds and eventually to us as well. The duckling enclosure has that covered run in it and an area on the outside, so we can have the youngest birds in the enclosure, and then if we need to we can have older ones on the outside in a house on the outside, still separated from the larger birds. The fencing around the vegetable garden doubles as the fencing for the duck enclosure on the one side, and then on the other side where I'm standing, this is a run of compost bays. So I'm literally just taking the waste from the vegetable garden and using it to make compost immediately, and also the muckings out from the animal houses can come here as well. And then it's really close to the vegetable garden where I'm going to want to use it again. So behind me immediately on that side is the area of the food forest that I've already developed, and on this side is the bit that hopefully I will get to develop this year. Lots more fruit trees in there, or actually the trees are already in it, but lots more bushes and comfrey and nitrogen fixing plants in here as well. And then I'll just turn the camera a tiny bit. So I haven't gone anywhere, I have literally just swung the camera around a tiny bit. There is Big White's field, and this is Big White's covered area, so that if we had been told to keep our birds under cover in the winter, he had an area that he could be in, and that takes him through then to the chicken palace, which is just here. And then on the other side of this field, so really where that green netting is already in the diesel field. It's all very close. I'm going to guess that Big White's field is between 30 and 35 feet wide. Probably more like 30. And the diesel field is about the same, but the diesel field isn't square, it's a rounded shape, and at the far end of the diesel field, turn the camera again, so at the far end of the diesel field over here is where I've now put in the potatoes, and I will be putting in some corn in there, and I'm using that end to grow because that's the end that the chickens have already prepared the ground, and I'm using the chickens to prepare the soil and turn it over and fertilise it to grow in this year, and then next year I'll use another area and they'll be allowed back in there, I think. So I'm turning the camera back again. I just want to do this all in pretty much full time. Real time. So the big trees here are the sycamores, they're in the little area that's next to the piggeries, that then goes round to the back of the piggeries. It's really not very big here at all. So I hope you enjoyed that quick look round. Nothing much in depth, but just to give you an idea of the layout and the feel for how much you can fit in to a homestead that's 0.8 acres. We do have room for other animals, but because of the condition of the soil, we are probably not going to have many other types of animals, but that's a discussion for another video. And so, wherever you are in the world and whatever you've got planned for today, I hope it's a good one. I also hope you'll join me again tomorrow.